Welcome back once again. Welcome back once again. TJ, your host. We are now in the Cognitive Distortion series. We've reached number 9. Number 9 is called Labeling and Mislabeling. And Mr. Burns, or Dr. Burns, says, personal labeling means creating a completely negative self-image based on your eras. It's an extreme form of overgeneralization. The philosophy behind it is, the measure of a man is the mistakes he makes. There is a good chance you are involved in a personal labeling whenever you describe your mistakes with sentences beginning with, I'm a, fill in the blank. For example, when you miss your putt on the 17th hole, you might say, I'm a born loser, instead of, I goofed up on my putt. Similarly, when the stock you invested in goes downhill instead of uphill, you might be thinking, quote, I'm a failure, instead of, I made a mistake. Labeling yourself is not only self-defeating, it's irrational. Yourself cannot be equated with any one thing you do. Your life is a complex and ever-changing flow and ebb and flow of thoughts, emotions, actions, behaviors. To put it another way, you are more like a river than a statue. Stop trying to define yourself with negative labels. They are overly simplistic and wrong. Would you think of yourself exclusively as an eater just because you eat? Or a breather? No, not a breeder, a breather. A breather just because you breathe? This is nonsense, he says. But this kind of nonsense becomes painful when you label yourself out of a sense of your own inadequacies. Now, when you label other people, you will invariably generate hostility. A common example is the boss, who sees his occasional secretary as an uncooperative beach. Because of this label, he resents her and jumps at every chance to criticize her. She in turn labels him as an insensitive blank and complains about him at every opportunity. So around and around they go at each other's throats, focusing on every weakness or imperfection as proof of the other's worthlessness. Mislabeling involves describing an event with words that are inaccurate and emotionally heavily loaded. For example, a woman on a diet ate a dish of iced cream and thought, how disgusting! This is disgusting of me and repulsive. I'm a pig! These thoughts made her so upset, she ended up eating the whole quart of ice cream. In case you haven't noticed, this series of videos is quite significantly shorter per episode than the other normal or regular videos I put out there, which I've deliberately not put in a lot of personal experience, but I think the personal experience is probably what makes it more interesting, because anybody can sit and read there from a David Burns book. So the problem is I see so many of these cognitive distortions, they just like overlap one on top of the other. So if I tell you about one, it probably pulls in 3 or 4 others. But since we're talking about labeling and mislabeling, I've experienced this one personally. I used to work at that bank in credit, in collections, and I went through all the different levels of collection and eventually reached the point where I thought, well, you know what? I want to do a job that's different, because it's kind of funny when you work in a call center. The people there work at a call center, they're on the phone, but they want to have a job that is off the phone, which is very common in a call center. Well, I wanted one of those jobs too, and I would apply. And I applied before I was even ready. It was kind of foolish, but I applied, and I was told no, and I labeled myself, I'm not going to get a job, this is ridiculous. And I would go ahead and apply for another one, because I'm a masochist. And I'd go through the whole thing, put the suit on and the tie and answer the questions, and rejection. So I started to label that I'm a failure. Well, I hung in there and learned more and got more experience, and guess what happened? There was a training assistant position. I applied for it, and guess what? I got it! And then there was another one called a job coach. I applied for that, and guess what? I got it! So the labeling was inaccurate, and then later on, I applied for another position, and I got that one too. So it's like those mislabelings are inaccurate and only cause distress. Because it's kind of like the self-fulfilling prophecy I mentioned in one of the others videos. You think you're going to fail, so you show up anyway and go through the motions, and you screw it up, and then you fail, and it was no surprise. I also found the part interesting about how he breaks it down and tells you that, well, because you breathe, do you think of yourself every day as, I'm a breather? No, we don't do that. Or the eating thing. Oh, I just had food and had lunch. Oh, I'm an eater. That reminds me of Connie and Carla, that movie. Like, I am an eater. ADHD. I am not going to label myself as a thief because the tags are still on my clothing. It was an accident. It accidentally fell in my bag.
Oh, but don't you doubt it. I'll be watching you. You better watch your back.
Hi, I'm Lola Lust. I'm here with Lust in the Just Escort, and I've got the answer to all of your needs. Whether it's he, a male, or a she, male, or a group setting, I've got clones of myself. Imagine having 10 of me at one time. It can be arranged. Just call the number right there on the screen. Don't forget, area code 666.
You can never escape from me.
La la la, ooh la la!
I am the Narco Cat, and you're not. So I'll take that.